everyone, it's Bella, and today I'd like to bring to you the general astrology horoscope for South Africa from April 2021 to April 2022. These interpretations must be considered as suggestions and possibilities. The listener is invited to reflect upon the interpretations and assess if they are worthy of being taken into consideration. The listeners should also know that the astrology charts reflect a potential, but does not offer a guarantee for that potential. This year, this is a reap what you sow kind of energy, reassessing the direction of the country as well as the rulership. If government actions have been done with integrity, there will be a positive change. If responsibilities have been shirked, most of the year will most likely be spent rebuilding its reputation. Now, the country as a whole with its inhabitants will be much more self-assertive this year. It also brings the king's advisor, learning institutions to the forefront and desiring more freedom from restrictions and expectations imposed by government, learning more how to use and improve strengths and weaknesses, relying more or realizing that we need to rely more on our own resources. International affairs, public enemies, partnerships, and unexpected or unusual alliances will be coming to the forefront possibly, even a coalition, and will be more of a focus this year. The powers of diplomacy is tested, and a strong need for harmony and peace, not necessarily achievable, as conflict and the need for defense against attack could become a reality. Learning when to say yes and when to say no is key. Change is the order of the day. Some of these alliances could also be in regards to scientific experimentations, electricity, aviation, right-wing political ideas, and rulership of the country itself. The president might want to change positions, take a break, step back, or alter his career or life path in some way, maybe even including the country's path, as he will most likely enter into some kind of important partnership this year, openly or hidden. These changes can be connected to his partner. Balance between personal desires and caretaking duties is key. The president and general rulership of the country will be much more involved with issues in regards to the law, religion, higher learning, foreign affairs, public speaking, foreign travel, even personal for the leader, and putting into practice what has been learned from the past year. This year proposes some obstacles to work through, especially in regards to government and the people relationship. And also for the president himself, it will require gradually building up new avenues that provide structure or new skills in areas that old ways have ceased to work. It will take patience and persistence. The opposition party and issues on land, resources, security, and values seem to be flipped in this year to be on the governing of the country instead. And there are many indicators that could point to the possibility of the opposition taking over or forming a partnership with the current rulership, and that some international influence is involved again, seen or unseen, as a power transfer is highly likely, whether visible publicly or not, as the 10th house does belong to secretive Scorpio. The perfected house for the year is also the 4th house of Taurus, ruled by Venus, and with the placements found here emphasizes the opposite party in politics, radical political ideas, the economic system, banks, financials, security, ownership, partnerships, contracts and agreements, unexpected events, unusual weather patterns, crops and produce of the land, farms and mines. It also is a year where you can expect the unexpected. Sudden events can catapult plans into entirely different directions than foreseen, but it can also create opportunities to break out of old patterns that have become restrictive. It also looks like Parliament, municipalities, and friends of the nation will be going through alterations by stripping social facades and aligning with connections and individuals who support the vision of the new changes being implemented. Also, foreign benefactors from the leader himself and the opposition gain from. Reevaluating relationships and goals and efficacy, and the possibility of new favorable relationships and alliances or partnerships forming in foreign affairs, transportation and trade, and within the country itself, which can focus on unification and relate to business and financial dealings are possible. But probably not without some partnerships also ending or changing in some way. Initially, there can be misunderstandings and pessimism in regards to partnerships, especially if too stubbornly set on a path. There might be the need to really pick at the details, and in some cases it might be better to just mend and adapt present relations than completely starting from scratch. This is not a year to make hasty or impulsive decisions, as it can cause error in judgment. Financial dealings will be much more security conscious, or should be. Mostly, though, relations that require legal agreements are mostly beneficial. It might be better to discuss options, remain adaptable whilst setting goals. There's a lesson here about diplomacy and to negotiate the way along by the end of the year. And by the end of the year, I mean the end of April next year. Things should be well on their way, or at least a clearer path of direction here. But also the realization that South Africa is so unique and other countries cannot really relate to what is truly the inner dialogue here. This year's strife in groups could be rife and include impatience, conflict between governing goals and assisting that of the collective can cause emotional reactions that become intense, as the public will be braver to break down barriers otherwise formidable. The public will become aware that helping each other is helping themselves. Even though there might be much adversity to deal with, strength and wisdom from above is there to sustain you. There can be much manipulation in regards to the media and issues from the past, prejudices and old viewpoints in order to control and divide. Financially, there can be much change, and this year you might become more aware of the intransient nature of resources and also the sometimes fickle nature of humans. There might be trust issues surfacing in regards to this. The Saturn in Aquarius square that is active all year, that is squaring Uranus and Taurus, will continue to engage restrictions versus freedom issues and topics involving consolidating of resources and land reform. In the daily structures of life and work schedules, hours of operation, etc., much change can be expected, and distribution of labor can become an issue. More truth in these areas will also be uncovered. Boundaries in regards to those we share spaces with, and the tendency for obsessive control levels here, also in regards to medicine. Presently, we have a full moon in fall in Scorpio on South Africa's birthday and solar return, conjunct the country's radix midheaven and Jupiter in the area of government, which is super powerful and suggests changes, action, and tension, which can be very large scale or of powerful international or foreign involvement or have to do with travel or new laws or changes in laws. The moon here also emphasizes a culmination of some kind, or fruition, or boiling point that's reached, or an ending of some sort in the area of government. A strong emotional energy is possible, and public outbursts are not uncommon with this placement. With the focus of the public on the government, there is a strong energy for the reformation of the government, almost obsessively, that does not come without encountering opposition from those that feel threatened by proposed actions and decisions. Underhanded operations are also likely, or some of these plans or issues could be illuminated and brought to the surface and exposed. Legal action, losses, financial losses, and even death in the country is possible. There could be power struggles with authority figures, police, and great intensity with this moon phase. Sudden changes are also possible. Transiting Pluto in Capricorn currently conjuncts radix Uranus in the 12th house of secret enemies, is turning retrograde on South Africa's birthday on 27 April 2021, just after this Scorpio full moon. And Pluto here implies the necessity to confront all the hidden and unpleasant aspects of the past. Even though this is nothing new, it is being reactivated now in a powerful way, which can include upsetting, radical, and sudden changes that could stir intense and forceful rebellion. Venus will also be retrograding here on 19 December 2021, which again brings the 4th and 9th houses and the governing powers to the forefront. The opposition, foreign connections, financials, economy, banks, land, living conditions and security, justice and radical reform, hidden alliances, rethinking relationships, partnerships, and negotiations, what works and what doesn't, and the real, concrete situations that result. This is not a dress rehearsal, and Venus wants everyone to make practical changes and bring the results down to earth. A few days later, on the 22nd of December 2021, the lunar nodes will be changing signs, with the North Node moving into Taurus and the South Node moving into Scorpio, which effectively puts the North Node in the 4th house of the radix of the opposition and the South Node in the 10th house of the radix of the government, again implying the direction of rulership is a change of power, as the current government is being dissolved. This will also bring South Africa closer to its reverse nodal return at 23 degrees and 48 minutes of Scorpio, and Taurus the perfected house, which will be exact on 19 April 2022, which will put a spotlight on stretching into new territory. This will require to being open to new challenges you'd usually try to edit out of your view. We also have the progressed moon making its full completion that normally takes around 27 years to return to the 10th house on the 9th of October 2021. And it will exactly oppose the sun, the president or rulership in the 4th, which is also in the perfected house of the year and puts the focus on some kind of accomplishment or fruition of significance around this time or this year in regards to the government, its rulership, the land, security, and ownership on all levels. Progressed Mars, ruler of the government and 10th house of Scorpio in the radix, officially moves into the 4th house of Taurus, the perfected house of the year, on 13 May 2021, which is the solar return, in the solar return moves to the 10th house of government, with the dispositor of Mars being Venus, the ruler of the opposition party, as well as foreign affairs and the law in the 9th house, which connects the possibility again of the opposition's power over the current ruler, or foreign power or law over the current ruler, as the radix sun sits here as well. And Venus has also just become visible in rulership in Taurus, very strong and capable of achieving her goals. Venus can involve partnerships, alliances, financial motivations, negotiations, and compromise. Mars here can also imply possibilities with issues of fear, clannishness, the past, security, living conditions, housing, ownership, justice, righteousness, and the law. Now, the midheaven, which is the government in the solar return chart, has the Sabian symbol of a new continent rising out of the ocean. And destiny propels the path of direction to success through a series of synchronized steps to increase the expertise and purpose. If South Africa is already on the desired path, things might just happen more easily, sort of at the right time and at the right place. But if not, some kind of assistance or contacts could come into play to lend a guiding hand, which could lead to a change of direction. As the government of South Africa, you're being asked to selflessly commit your expertise to a higher purpose and not to being manipulated by benefactors and international influences with hidden agendas. Now, looking at the eclipses, 26 May 2021, there will be a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius in the radix 11th house, which will be an ending, culmination, a fruition or boiling point of a topic concerning possibly the parliament, municipalities, group alliances, international alliances, ending of an unrealistic goal, ending of a membership, legislation, the death of someone in high standing, or foreign connections. The ruler of this eclipse is Jupiter and is in the second house of Pisces in rulership and strong, squaring Venus in the radix, and the above-mentioned topics can combine and connect to the following: economic system, national wealth, revenue, activities concerned with money-making, banks, the stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets and trade, property ownership, and current opposition political party. On the 10th of June 2021, there's a solar eclipse in Gemini in the 5th house of the radix, which could be a new beginning, a new approach, a new seed of intention concerning possibly freedom, the youth, education, training, information or ideas, places of amusement, theaters, entertainment, and pleasure, the birth rate, sports, speculation, gambling, high society and formal social functions, ambassadors, politics, or new business. The ruler of this eclipse is Mercury in the 5th as well, in rulership and strong. The 19th of November 2021, there's a lunar eclipse in Taurus in the 4th profected house of the year. And this can mean an ending or culmination or fruition of a topic concerning possibly land, the owners and workers, the crops and produce of the land, mines, buildings, the people as contrasted with the monarch, the democracy as contrasted with the aristocracy, the opposition in parliament. The ruler of this eclipse is Venus in the 12th house of endings in Capricorn, and the above-mentioned topics can combine and connect to the following: finances, relationships, partnerships, prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, secret enemies of the country, at home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions for the weak, infirmatories, people in need of charity, the welfare state, possible secret societies, and occult religions. The ruler of the eclipse, with its dispositor Saturn, in rulership in Aquarius and squaring the radix Sun, the president, can imply a time of critical developments that seem to appear out of nowhere, from somewhere that might have started about 7 years ago. The president's health might also be at higher risk, or he might need to rest more during this stressful time. The 4th of December 2021, there will be a solar eclipse in Sagittarius in the 11th house of the radix, which can imply a new beginning, a new approach, a new seed of intention concerning possibly new goals, the parliament, new members in parliament, a new political party, municipalities, group alliances, international alliances, benefactors, new alliances, new goals, beginning of a membership or relationship, changes or new legislation that involves travel or foreign affairs, new foreign benefactors and gains. The ruler of this eclipse is Jupiter in the first house in Aquarius, with its dispositor Saturn also there, and the above topics can combine and connect to the following: the country and its inhabitants as a whole, the general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse, foreign authority, interception or influence, new perceptions, big innovative ideas or experiments, restrictions and regulations connected to technology, and unusual or sudden changes, food supplies in decline, market supply and demand. Jupiter is squaring the radix nodes on the governing axis of government and opposition, creating a T-square, which creates a bridge between the past, the south node, and the future, the north node, and can be seen as our present. Now I'd like to go through some Sabian symbols for Dane Rudjar, for interest's sake. The midheaven for the ingress chart, where Pisces is also emphasizing the dissolving of the government or rulership, hidden and possible criminal aspects involved. A master instructing his disciple. The transfer of power and knowledge which keeps the original spiritual and creative impulse of the cycle active and undeviated. The power and archetypal knowledge released in the beginning of any cycle, or at the creation of it, must be perpetuated until the very last day. It can be transmitted from master to disciple at the latter's initiation. It must be so transmitted, for when the line of transmission is discontinued, the cyclic process begins to collapse in futility and spiritual darkness. The transmission is from person to person, and it follows a general unchanging pattern. Yet it operates in terms of particular and individual circumstances. The key word here is investiture. And the midheaven is basically a very important point in the governing of a chart. The solar return Sabian symbol for the ascendant is Leo at 4 degrees. A formally dressed elderly man stands near trophies he brought back from a hunting expedition. The implication of being formally dressed is that an important, if not the most important goal the individual had in developing this capacity has been to prove himself to others, as well as perhaps himself. The ascendant in the ingress chart is an airplane performing a nosedive, which denotes a sense of finality in the approach of the energy for this year. The Sabian symbol for the North Node in Gemini in the solar return is newly opened lands offer the pioneer new opportunities for experience, new beginnings, and facing the unfamiliar, and the fact that anything could happen. And these are the nodes of destiny. For the Aries Ingress, it's a famous pianist giving a concert performance, individual fulfillment in the performing of a social function to which some prestige is attached. One moves into new realms, and successfully challenges the fears, the insecurities, and the lack of self-confidence of the past in oneself. The moon or the people in the solar return, an eagle and a large white dove change into each other. And this interaction of the spiritual will and of the love principle when critical needs arise. Consciousness operates beyond duality, and because the polarized energies of the soul or spirit, will and love, though ever distinct, work for a single purpose. The moon or the people in the Ingress chart is a woman activist in an emotional speech, dramatizing her cause, a passionate response to a deeply felt new experience. A public is needed, and it has to be convinced. Its inertial resistance or initial resistance to change has to be overcome. This usually requires an emotional dramatization of the issues at stake. A woman is depicted, which means a person depending upon feelings and fiery images to sway the receptive public. The mind is called upon to perform its work, but what comes first is the action of the mind, which is violently moved and which attempts to move other minds by violent means. The proselytizing mind. Mars in the solar return, Sabian symbol, and Mars being the ruler of the government in the radix 10th house of South Africa, found in the 11th house of Friends of the Nation. On a ship, the sailors lower an old flag and raise a new one. The keynote here is a radical change of allegiance exteriorized in a symbolic act, a point of no return, a reorientation. This is a very important Sabian symbol for this year in regards to the government. For the Aries Ingress, Mars is a quiver filled with arrows, essentially a trans-piercing power. It goes through the object towards which it is aimed. It seeks to go through and beyond the obstacles on its path, and this usually implies the destruction of the obstacle. There are two sides here in regards to the governing powers. Since the perfected house ruler until 27 April 2022 is Venus, the opposition party and foreign relations, the solar return ruler, the Sun, president, and again public enemies on foreign influence, and the Aries Ingress ruler, Mercury, could imply changes in government and rulership, and outside influence is emphasized to the path forward. Even if this is not the completion by the end of the solar return on 27 April 2022, it will by then be well on its way in negotiations at least. The Sabian symbol for Venus in the radix chart of South Africa as the current ruler of the perfected year. A peacock parading on the terrace of an old castle. The personal display of inherited gifts. It indicates the consummation of individual efforts, of a long past of efforts and victories from the past in accordance to South Africa. When you have time, you can also listen to the previous videos on South Africa named South Africa Part 1, where I discuss the natal radix chart of South Africa as of 1994, and South Africa Part 2. May the sun shine bright on you this day in South Africa, and may there be blessings coming your way. Until next time.